let's talk about the very latest and the standing ovation, the jumping jacks that the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, was doing this morning over new oil sanctions in the European Union, up to about 90%. We're going to stop up to 90% of oil coming from Russia.
Eventually.
There's all these caveats with this, right? So let's play the soundbite from Ursula. And she's from Little Mermaid, isn't she, Ursula?
That is the villain's name.
Okay.
And this actual politician is not.
Oh, okay. She's
the
not.
Little Mermaid.
Okay, so yeah, here's Ursula von der Leyen talking about the gas supplies and the halting of all these gas supplies coming from Russia.
I'm very glad that the leaders were able to agree in principle on the 6 sanctions package. This is very important. Thanks to this, Council should now be able to finalize a ban on almost 90% of all Russian oil imports by the end of the year. This is an important step forward.
Okay. So meanwhile, the Russia has seen like a 25% spike, an increase in oil going to India and other places. Once again, Russia appears to be doing just fine, according to the experts we've spoken to here on the show, appears to be doing just fine. And
so this was the result of a 2-day meeting for European Union leaders. They did not think they would come to an agreement in just a single day. They had sort of bookmarked today to keep going. But this morning they said, no, we got it. We have an agreement. We plan to put sanctions on Russian oil by the end of the year. But for now, these sanctions only apply to oil delivered by sea. But Europe will continue to suck from the pipelines for now until the end of the year. Not everyone agrees with this, though. The president of Hungary is saying, I promised when I got reelected that I wouldn't get involved in these kind of disputes. I don't agree to this, actually.
And meanwhile, people hurting all over Europe. So I just looked at the Polish numbers just a few minutes ago, and Poland's inflation numbers are skyrocketing. I think they're up 12% now. So think about Poland right here. Poland is like 13%, 13.9% in Poland, the highest figure in 24 years for inflation. 1.7% increase in 1 month in Poland. Poland is being used as like the staging ground. Hey, Poland, can we just use you as much as we can right now to funnel as many weapons as we can right through your country? Oh, and also take on as many refugees as you possibly can. We're just going to funnel refugees and weapons right through your country. And your inflation is up 13.9%.
And stop taking gas from Russia. So find it somewhere else. And, oh, sorry, it's hot there, and you need to drive places. You're going to have to figure out a way to do that less.
Yeah.
Same story in Spain. Same story in France. They're at almost 12% inflation. Same story in Germany, where there's nearing a 50-year high for inflation. So it's amazing because the story is just not jiving, where we are supposed to applaud that Western leaders are sanctioning oil, which will hurt those of us who live in the West because they think it's hurting Russia when it's not. It's like, what am I missing here? I feel like I got to the end of a choose your own adventure book and I'm like, that didn't make sense.
Well, the bullshit on all of this, guys, like this is when you're sitting around talking to your friends and like your friends who don't watch this show and they don't understand how this stuff actually works, right? It's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. And so let me just tell you this, right? The idea of these sea imports, okay? So 2/3 of which of these sea imports are likely to be mixed with like 49% Russian oil and 51% non-Russian oil. So what they get to say then with these sea imports is it's not Russian oil, right? Because it's like, oh, it's 51% non-Russian oil.
Right.
We mix it with 49% Russian oil, right? Or the EU to impose embargo on Russian oil, more than 2/3 of the imports will be cut immediately. And the EU embargo on Russian oil will not apply to those deliveries through the pipeline. So what is it? Just a big PR campaign.
Yes. I mean, it's very similar to President Biden saying we're going to put more ethanol in fuel so that we reduce our dependence on fuel. But it relies on the rest of us not knowing that ethanol is actually made with fuel. The ethanol that is put inside as a fuel supplement, one, it's bad for your car, but two, they have to actually add gasoline to it. Otherwise, it would be subject to alcohol tax because it is essentially just alcohol made from
Right,
corn. And so that product has gas in it. But so basically what he's saying, I feel like this is Les Miserables skit. Like they are watering down our gas. That's it. Right. And we're supposed to applaud that.
But we're all supposed to still suffer, right? We're still supposed to suffer. We're still supposed to, feel the pain at home. Remember what Kamala Harris said about this on energy? That like what now Americans, Americans are hitting record prices now. I think the average is $4.62. We had it in the newsletter this morning. The average for a gallon is $4.62. It's likely to hit $5 a gallon. Let me know in the chat, how many of you, like, what are you guys paying? Just drop it in the comments right now. You have to be a subscriber to comment. That's just how we have it set. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to read it. So just subscribe to the channel. But what is the gas price where you live right now? Let's see here in the chat, Philip, see if you can keep an eye on who has the highest gas prices right now. And diesel prices or petrol prices. So it could be, we have viewers from all around the world. I want to see what these prices look like right now.
And you've seen it in reflected in the prices of everything. I just have been noticing that sending UPS labels are like $11 to $12 more per label just because of the gas prices of, what UPS has to endure. The price just to send something state to state is up. The price of everything, things that you would not otherwise think. It never ceases to surprise me.
Yeah. So here's Kamala Harris talking about...
Right now, the highest number looks like... Sorry. I was going to say right now, the highest number... Oh, we just got another one came in. It was Angel Baby Cards, but now it's looking like... We've got... Nope, where'd it go?
What's the number?
619.
It's moving. It's 695. 695 is
Holy
the number
shit.
we're looking for. There we go.
695
per gallon
In Stockton, California.
Oh, California.
Yep, per
yeah.
gallon.
There you go. Holy smokes.
Wow.
And it's going to continue to go up. But you guys got to, this is, by the way, guys, because of these Russian sanctions, you're doing this to support democracy. Right, these are your values. Remember, Kamala Harris told us this.
Specifically, what they're telling us.
Already said Americans will be facing some economic fallout or some hardships. Can you explain to Americans what exactly will they face if this happens?
Sure. As the president talked about in his speech, we are aware that, again, when America stands for her principles and all of the things that we hold dear, it requires sometimes for us to put ourselves out there in a way that maybe we will incur some cost. And in this situation, that may relate to energy costs, for example.
She said the same thing when she was wearing purple about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Actually, no, before the invasion even started. So, yeah, we heard that it was going to cost us because we are collectively standing for our principles. But whose principles is it that we're standing for? And what exactly is it that we're standing for? Is democracy in Ukraine? I'm not sure about that. When we get to the Mueller report later, we're going to talk about, like, when did we agree on democracy in Ukraine? Because this was not something that American politicians have been united on for a long time. So then voters, we voted for people who wanted to do, obviously we did, right? Because very few politicians are standing against intervention in Ukraine. It's very confusing, and I still just find it so odd that they're asking us to sacrifice for something that they're not being straight with us about.
Sheila McGuire in our chat says $10 a gallon for diesel in Scotland right now.
Wow.
Holy smokes. Yeah, still going up. So President Biden came out today and held a meeting with Jerome Powell, and a lot of people, myself included, were hoping that this wasn't just going to be like a photo op, because a day before he releases in the Wall Street Journal, he releases his own opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal. It must be nice where you can just call up the Wall Street Journal and you're like, hey, here's my plan for fighting inflation. Will you guys print this, please? And so here it is. This is Joe Biden's plan for fighting inflation, and it lays it out in sort of 3 parts. And I have to say, this is his layout here. But when I read Seeking Alpha had a great article on sort of the breakdown of all of this. Biden lays out plan to fight inflation before his Powell meeting. Isn't that sort of like undercutting the meeting? Like, what the hell's the meeting for? You've already said you're not going to get in the way of the Fed, right? So you're going to release your own plan. And like Jerome Powell's like, all right, then what am I doing here? Like, why am I showing up at the White House? What do I have to do here?
I mean, the first part of the plan is to let the Fed fight inflation, but I will not get involved with the Fed like my predecessor did, because we may remember that President Trump liked to just scream at Jerome Powell for, keeping inflation too high in order to, he wanted a better economy, sort of on his record, right? So he's like, I'm not going to do that, but I want the Fed to do what's good for me.
And then also take a look at my laptop here. If I can get, where is that screen on my little thing? I can't. Can you pull it up? Oh, there it is. The strategy, he says, the price at the pump is elevated in large part because Russian oil, gas, and refining capacity are off the market. We can't let up on our global effort to punish Putin for what he's done, and we must mitigate these effects for American consumers. That's why I led the largest release from the global oil reserves in history. Congress could help right away by passing clean energy tax credits and investments that I have proposed. Okay, that is hilarious. All right, can we go through that? That is a giant pile of steaming crap right there. The price at the pump is elevated in large part because Russian oil, gas, and refining capacity are off the market. As if, how'd that happen? So, yeah, you're telling, you guys did that.
You took it off the market.
You took it off the market. So this isn't like it's Hurricane Katrina, right? And we're worried about oil reserves, or we're worried about, you took it off the market, right?
Right. So this is not a free market. This is a political market.
Right.
So, okay. And that is decisions of leaders, right? We actively see leaders now in Eastern Europe saying, we're not going to make these political decisions. We're going to continue business as usual. And then we still get gas, right? So, it's fallacy to let us think that we had no choice. We have had a choice.
So there's three piles of crap in this one paragraph, right? So we're punishing Putin for what he's done. You're not punishing him. Actually, they're doing pretty well. Okay, so you're not punishing him. This is only hurting us. We took it off the market. That's why I led the largest release of global oil reserves in history. Who cares? So big, it didn't do anything to affect markets. Maybe it alleviated a little bit of pressure for like 4 days. Good. You opened up the strategic oil reserves. Right.
Well, based on the amount and based on the consumption in America, that amount was supposed to last about 8 days.
Right. Yeah. So, 8 days. I said 4 or 5 days. Mm-hmm. And then Congress could help right away by passing clean energy tax credits and investments that I have proposed. So, clean energy tax credits are going to get us out of this mess. I'm going to fight inflation. So please explain to me. And, Peter Doocy asked, whatever his name, the new White House press secretary, like last week, this question. She couldn't answer it. It's like, how does, sanctioning Putin actually lower gas prices for us at home? How does doing any of this actually lower gas prices for us at home? How does passing clean energy tax credits and investments lower your pain at home? Can anyone help me with this?
Do you think that it would be, I know people don't like to be told to conserve, especially when the military is not, the federal government is not, right? But would it ring a bit more sincere if the White House said, look, gas is really expensive. There are all types of market forces, some that we created and some that we didn't, that are going to make this continue. Can you find a way to conserve? Can you take the bus? Right? There's nothing like that. It's like, Americans, keep living like you always live, which is consume everything, right? Water, gas, food, whatever the hell you want. And it's just going to still be really high, right? So that's not helpful. Would it then be helpful to say, we need to rethink our way of life?
Well, that's maybe a larger, broader discussion, right?
Well, that's what we're here for.
I know, but I know you go down that is a different, I think it's a different argument, because what they're telling us is that this is all because of Putin. It's a Putin price hike. The reason that inflation is running so hot is because of Putin, which is garbage. Yes. It was happening before that.
But it does not change the reality that life will continue to get more expensive. Wages will not go up. Taxes will go up at some point when Biden has his way. And so for the rest of us, it is time to rethink our life of consumption. We have to.
Well, we already are. We're being forced to.
Right.
So, and maybe this is part of the Great Reset, right? This is part of this great discussion about forcing people into these green tax credits, forcing people to move away from fossil fuels, forcing people to, to buy, I don't know what, because they want to have this control. So if you're forcing people to buy cheaper goods, which we saw now that's happening across the United States and in the UK, they're buying cheaper things.
Yeah.
How is that helping the businesses that lobby Congress and have, the ears of the White House, right? I'm sure people that make those nice televisions and so forth are not happy about people not being able to afford this stuff anymore. So I'm sure they're going to be hearing from these Wall Street types.
Yes. HSM is pointing out when we are using gas for petrol. Thank you for that distinction. Yes, we are talking about petrol specifically, but also other energy exports as well.
Basically, we're having, and California is about to have major blackouts this summer. They're not set up for it. We saw what happened in Texas last year. Right, they set up all these wind farms, and of course they didn't have the capacity to deal with what was going on, what unfolded, and they froze up and they couldn't work. And then they also, Texas wasn't ready, and then California's going to have all these blackouts this summer. It's going to be an absolute disaster.
I guess I've been reading this book called Unquenchable from a policy expert, a university professor out of Arizona, and he talks about all of the ways that Americans just consume water with no understanding of what it's costing the earth or what it's costing them. And now we're having these conservation efforts that really don't do much because we don't pay very much for water. In most cases, in most municipalities, you don't pay for actually the amount of water. You pay for either the transport of that water or the electricity or the water company to deliver it to you. But you're not really paying per gallon. And he says that unless politicians and leaders start to incentivize reduction of use or actually help people to understand what's going on in terms of the market forces, in terms of did you know that wells are not regulated, that you can dig a well whenever the hell you want? There's no limit on the amount of well. There's no real testing of these wells. And now the human body does not digest certain medicines that we're taking, like birth control or Viagra or some of these hormone replacements and the opioid epidemic. Those things, 90% of them are filtered out through your urine and now are in our water systems. There is a real water crisis coming. I want to talk about this more on a later show, but no politician is preparing us for it and saying we overconsume. We have to rethink our way of life. Instead, it's playing politics as if we can all continue with our lives, and we can't. There is no situation in which in 10 years we can consume at this level. And so,
well, he says we need to reduce the cost of everyday goods by fixing broken supply chains, improving infrastructure, cracking down on exorbitant fees, the cost of ocean freight companies. And he also then goes on to talk about we have to reduce the price of prescription drugs by giving Medicare the power to negotiate. All of this under his inflation plan. First of all, where does inflation come from? Right? I mean,
government spending,
and government printing of money. Here's an idea. The $40 billion that you literally just mailed to Vladimir Zelensky? What if we did something with that? You want to talk about crumbling infrastructure? I mean, you literally can say this, speak out of both sides of your mouth, and we literally support this crap. I mean, it is unbelievable how we stand there when we watch this unfolding right before our eyes. And then we reelect these people. We have an opportunity right now. We have 100 million Americans that don't vote for either of these two parties, and they both were in lockstep voting for $40 billion to send to Ukraine. So we continue to funnel, all sorts of weapons and medicine and refugee help and everything else to Ukraine because it's our proxy war.
Well, he talks about how the Congressional Budget Office has said that the deficit will shrink by the end of the year. That doesn't mean that there won't still be a deficit. It means it won't grow at the same astronomical amount as it did last year. It will still grow, but by just a shade less, right? And so that's how so it's almost like you can say whatever you want about numbers to make them look good. That doesn't make them good. The deficit is still astronomical and government spending is still a ton.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.